The question is, if you run a service business, do you charge sales tax for labor? It used to be that sales tax often just covered the sale of goods or products. It didn't cover the sale of services. However, state legislatures have been gradually changing those state laws to start covering services as well, so that if you sell a service, you may be required to collect and pay sales tax on that. Right now in Minnesota, for example, for a lawyer or an accountant who provides services, we are not required to collect sales tax from our clients, and thus we are not required to turn over that sales tax to the Minnesota Department of Revenue. However, there are categories of companies that sell services and are required to collect sales tax, and then are required to turn over the money collected for sales tax to the state government. So this issue very much is decided by state law. Every state is different, and at least in Minnesota and states like it, it's going to depend on which industry you are part of. So you might wonder, how do I figure out whether I need to be collecting and paying sales tax from my customers or clients? The best option is to contact the state government agency that handles sales tax. Now, if your state doesn't have sales tax, you don't have to worry about that. But contact them and say, could you point me to any publications or laws related to whether sales tax is required in this industry, and then tell them what industry you are in. For example, maybe you are a personal trainer at a health club, or maybe you are a health club that sells memberships. Maybe you are a photographer and you provide photography services. But then as part of that, you might include providing a digital form of the photos, which might be considered goods. So this is unfortunately not an easy calculation, because sometimes it's not entirely just services. You might have some goods, maybe it's just in electronic form, maybe it's just an electronic copy of something that's being provided to your customer. And in that case, the calculation of whether you must charge sales tax may change depending on what you're providing to customers or clients. If you run an exterior cleaning service business, are you required to collect and pay sales tax? Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer that question here today. What I would do is, step one, contact the sales tax department in your state and ask for any printed information regarding your type of business. Second, I'd encourage you to reach out to a CPA who handles small businesses. CPAs tend to have a lot more knowledge than attorneys on the specific tax rates, because that's the world CPAs live in. Whereas even tax attorneys are dealing with more big disputes, not necessarily applying the tax rates. So generally speaking, in Minnesota, a lot of service providers are exempt from collecting sales tax, but there are more and more exceptions these days. And frankly, I am not familiar with all of those exceptions. I'd recommend contacting the Department of Revenue and the Sales Tax Division, or a CPA, to get an answer for whether you should collect sales tax from your customers. If you haven't already, make sure you sign up for aaronhall.com/free, which will give you access to the most common legal problems faced by new businesses and how to avoid them, and exclusive videos educating you as a business owner on how to avoid problems in your business as you grow a successful company.